In this video, we're going to talk about how to make sure the users of your no-code app see your app as valuable. Now, this is really important because the more valuable users see your app to be, the longer they're going to stick around. So the higher your retention rate is going to be, and the more they will be willing to pay for your app. So you'll be able to boost your revenues and really grow your business more easily. So it's really important that users see your no-code app as being as valuable as possible. So we're going to dive into the strategy behind this today. Now, make sure you stick around until the end because there are two specific ways you need to be thinking about value, and these are actually opposites, and they're often overlooked, and we're going to cover both today. So make sure you stick around for that. Now, first, if you're new around here, my name is Kristen, and I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help non-technical entrepreneurs build custom apps so they can start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses all without coding. Okay, so we're over on our whiteboard here, and you can see an arrow on my screen. And remember, I mentioned there are two ways that you should be thinking about value and that your users will think about value. And we're going to sort of draw those out here so that you can get a visual of this. So if we look at this arrow going up and out as being the value of your app, right? The growing value in your users' eyes, then we want to split this into two. So we're going to draw a line here as kind of like a halfway point. Now, value comes in a user's eyes. So this is perceived value. It comes in two forms, really. First, we want to look at the input, and then we want to look at the output. Now, I want to give you some context so this makes sense. When you're building your no-code app, you are building a solution that solves a problem for a user and enables them to achieve a certain outcome. Okay, so I don't want you right now to think about your app as a product, right, or an idea. I want you to think about it as a solution to a problem. So people are looking to solve a certain problem they have. And in order to solve that problem, they have to input certain amounts of time or effort or energy, thought, whatever it may be, so that they can achieve that certain output or the result that they're looking for. Okay, so we want to look at the value in two ways. So you can increase the perceived value of your app if you can target both the input and the output. So the input is what a user or what a prospective user has to do in order to solve the problem that they have. So what is the amount of work or effort they have to do on their end? And most importantly, how can your app lower that? How can your app lower their input? Okay. On the flip side, when that effort or that energy, the time, the money, whatever it is input into solving a problem, what is the output? So what is it that a user is achieving? And on your end, how can you increase that? How can you make it better? So how can you reduce their input and increase the output for them? The more you can do both of those things, the higher the value of your app. Now, what I want to do to help you think about this a little bit more easily is go through some of the things you can do in order to decrease the input, increase the output. So there are a couple ways I want you to think about increasing the output. Now, the first is really easy, and we've already talked about this, and it's really more of a mindset shift than anything else, to be honest, but it is focusing on your product as a solution versus a product. So we're going to put here solution versus product. And the reason why it's important to think about your app in this way is because if all you think about when building your app, launching your app, growing your app in business, if all you think about is how can you solve a user's problem better and better and better, then you are always going to, by default, be increasing their output or reducing that input. If instead, however, you're always thinking about your product, how can I make my product prettier? How can I make it fancier? How can I make my product better? Well, then you're not thinking about the right thing. And this is kind of a gray area. It can sound like one and the same, but like I said, it's a mindset shift. If you're always thinking about solving someone's problem better, then again, by default, these things are going to happen. If you're thinking about your product, then by default, you're not considering these things, okay? And therefore, you're not considering the decisions you're making as it relates to value, which again is really important for growing your business. So think about it as a solution versus a product. And the second thing I want you to do is see if you can help someone achieve their outcome or their output, potentially with less risk. Okay, now what this means is, can you help someone achieve their outcome with more certainty, right? With less risk that something is going to go wrong, that they're not going to achieve the outcome in the way they really want to, that they're not going to achieve it on time or on budget or whatever it may be. Can you help them achieve the outcome with less risk? Because if you can do that, then you're increasing the output, right? The output or that outcome is automatically better. It's more certain. And that is going to increase the perceived value of your app. Okay, so think about it as a solution. Think about your app as a solution versus a product, and think about how can you reduce risk of achieving the outcome for your user. Now, when we look at the other side, the input, what are some of the things you can do to reduce the input on the user side? Because the more you can reduce that, the more valuable your app is going to become. Now, these are pretty straightforward, and you've probably experienced these yourself, but there are 3 that I want to go through with you. So one of the things you can do is help users follow really, right, this path in less time, okay? Help them follow the path in less time than they would otherwise spend. So if a user has a problem, they're trying to solve it, then they're doing something probably currently to solve that problem. Well, how can you reduce the amount of time it takes them to solve the problem? Now, this is something that obviously you want to be thinking about with your app, because time is money, right? Time is very valuable because it's the one thing you can't make more of. But if you can help your users feel like your app is making more time for them, well, they're going to see your app as a heck of a lot more valuable. Now, the next thing is, how can you help a user achieve that outcome with less money? Okay, now you don't have to do all of these. Okay, you don't have to do all of these. Not all of them are going to be right. So I'm certainly not saying you should lower the price on your app or charge a really low price. That's not what that means. So I want to make that clear. But if you can help a user achieve a certain outcome for less money than they're otherwise going to spend on it, the value is going to go up in their eyes. So for example, let's think about a business tool. Maybe a business tool that helps you automate some processes that you would otherwise need to hire a part-time freelancer to handle, maybe at 5 hours a week, right? Hypothetically. Well, if your app can negate the need for that 5 hours of manual labor each week, well, then you're saving them a lot of money and your app becomes a lot more valuable for them. Okay, so how can you potentially, if this fits your situation, help a user reduce the input by solving the problem with them spending less money? Now, the third one is a big one that it's important to think about, and anyone can implement this one into their app, regardless of what it is you're building. But how can you help a user achieve the outcome with less frustration? Okay, how can you just make it easier for them? Less stressful, less of a process, less of a task or a chore. Right? How can you input some ease into their processes? Right? People will pay a lot for that. People value that a lot. So what you can do is, if you think about these things, right, you can start to increase the output more, right? And you can decrease that input. So if currently the way users might be solving their problems, right, that your app is going to be solving, if currently maybe it looks like this, or maybe even like this, right? Well, how can you make it more like this one, right? The more you can increase the green shade on this arrow, the more you can decrease the red, the more valuable your app is going to become in users' eyes. Okay, so this right here is where the value is. All right, so think about your app as a solution versus a product. How can you make the outcome more certain? How can you reduce the risk of not achieving it on time or in budget? How can you help them save time, maybe save money? How can you reduce frustration? The more you can focus on those things in your app, the more valuable users are going to see your app as being. The more you can charge, the longer you'll be able to retain your users, the more you will grow your business. Now, if you're at your idea stage, or you just started the development of your app, you're building a no-code app, and you want to make sure you're headed forward in the right direction, from here, I want you to head over to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop and sign up for our free extended training, which takes you through a strategic scoping process for your app, making sure you're building, testing, launching the right things at the right time in the right order so that you can get the right feedback and grow in the right way. It's going to talk about some no-code ways you can use no-code tools and really just send you off in the right direction with your app. So you can join in on that at coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.